What's good, y'all? This is the Unbiased Fan Brim Reaper. So first things first, I want to give a shout out to Ness, Gibbs, and Danny from the Boxing Voice, and for them to give me time to speak on their platform. With that noted, there's some real clear things that I feel like he does to make it look like he's know what he's talking about and has the upper hand that I feel like I have to address. So it's nothing personal, but this is boxing debate, and that's why I'm here today for this video. So let's talk about it. All right, so the issue was with 61K given by Rick Glaser, and then you got 400K given by Ellie Setback. So they discredit Rick Glaser, and I have argued with Rick Glaser multiple times, but I have a relationship with him, and I like the guy. I like talking to him. But they said Dan Rafael's more reputable. Okay. So if he's more reputable, why, when it comes to Tank's numbers, you see the numbers look like this? Yeah, read it. So whose numbers is closer? Rick Glaser's or Dan Rafael's? Whose numbers was more spot on? Okay, so now let's continue. I'm going to let y'all listen to play an audio clip of what we argued about. But before we go into it, some of my points I wasn't able to get fully out. But before I play this clip, I want y'all to know this. He used Jake Paul. I heard another caller about Jake Paul and the numbers, and used, rest in peace, Gatti, right? Because I tell him that everybody's putting too much on Livegate and trying to translate it to a pay-per-view story when they're two different things. There's many fighters in the era before who did Livegates great that were never pay-per-view guys. Completely disregarding the fact that the quality of your opponent plays a phenomenal role. So before I get into the video, the one thing I want to point out, and then I'll explain the rest of the back end, that makes so much of a difference is when Showtime does a phenomenal job, they will announce the numbers. When it's not good, they won't. Why not? Because they're a publicly traded company, so they can't announce false figures. So if the numbers are not good, they're not going to announce them. They'll let bullcrap numbers that are slightly inflated go out. So if Tank did 400,000 like Ellie Setback did, right? Even if he did 300,000, those numbers are close to literally as highest pay-per-view numbers he would have done. So those would have been brought out by Showtime themselves in the press release. They were not. And since they wasn't, there is your answer to what you're actually looking at and understanding when it comes to the pay-per-view. I'll cover the back end of some of the things I wanted to poke holes into Ness's argument because he wanted to feel holier than thou as he tried to shut me down. But listen to the interview real quick, and then I'll come right back. Oh, yeah, and I don't own the content. This is just for educational purposes.
Next up is Unbiased Fan from Birmingham, I think. That says. Doesn't finish the screen name. Oh, no, Brim Reaper. Yo.
Yeah, ain't no Birmingham. What's up, man?
How you doing, brother?
I'm all right. I hope y'all mornings are blessed. I see what the topic is at hand, and I was talking to you about this the other day. And, Rick Glaser is a abrasive fella, you know. I will admit that. I've disagreed with him multiple times. But the unfortunate thing is the source that he utilizes is one of the same sources that people who feel that there's other people who actually use the same source and they're considered more reputable because they don't, have a slant.
I gotta
like
ask
Rick
you
has.
this, and it may feel like I'm disagreeing, but like, how do you know they use the same source? Sources means I don't tell you who it is. Sources means it's confidential.
Yeah, it's just that it was some of the communication that we had a few days back, because I do talk to Rick, and there was a couple other gentlemen. They're more reputable. I'm not going to put their names out there, but there's on Twitter, and it's clear as day. And he was like, unfortunately, Rick's right. His sources is the same source that I use. They're not putting the name of the source out, but he just basically put it out there like, it's the same source, man. And I love Tank in the ring, but part of the problem is when you have uneven cards, it's the 50-50 fights, it's the unknown. That's what moves the needle in boxing, and it's a sport, and the sport is being taken out of boxing, and that's why the numbers are not what the numbers are, because Tank is a superstar in all rights, but he's not being lined up properly so his star can shine the brightest. Now, this is about to happen with a fight with Ryan Garcia, but Ryan Garcia hasn't proven anything either. But he has that name recognition, and he has a branding that that carries beyond just boxing, and that's what's been missing in the game. I mean, you can't fight a Hector Garcia who's coming up from 130 to 135, which I think he's a good fighter, but it doesn't move the needle. I called that card the night of mismatches. I've never seen betting odds so like uneven from top to bottom of a card. So for a fight fan, it's not moving the needle for them. So I'm not surprised that the card is not doing hundreds of thousands, even though I was hoping for him to see 300K for this. But it's just not there. You gotta put on the most competitive fights. You gotta take a risk. You gotta put risk out there for you to hit to reach the goal that you want to reach, and that's what's lacking. That's why I'm proud of Cool Boy. I'm proud of Cool Boy right now.
I think Ellie's sources might be better than Rick's, man. I mean, he getting it straight from the camp, straight from the horse's mouth.
But he's also he's also pro Tank, so like, why would he say 61? I mean, my man can't say Tank's. My man cannot say Tank's name without saying superstar. He just can't. Show me a video where he just says Tank Davis, superstar boxer Tank Davis.
Yeah, I feel like Ellie it's like it's polar spectrum opposites. Rick had a bad dealing in the early days of Al Heyman when it came to rest in peace. My brain is a little blank because it's early in the morning. Vernon Forrest, and he was right about something, and he felt like Al Heyman kind of like just treat him like he gum on the bottom shoe, so he's always had a vendetta against him after that. And then you got Ellie Setback, who kids. But hold on, you're right. But then when you talk about Ellie Setback, his lips are puckered on the butt cheeks, bro. He's blowing booty holes basically. He's kissing ass. So he's kissing ass. So it's like two ends of the spectrum.
But isn't it? So wouldn't it be better to be where the boxing voice is at, which is neutral? And come out and say, Ellie is saying 400,000, but we know Ellie is a Tank man. Glaser is saying 61,000, but we know fucking Glaser is a PBC goddamn hater. He never reported nothing good. So how do we decide that Ellie kisses ass and we ain't gonna believe him? But you want to say Glazer's a hater and got a vendetta, but I'm gonna believe him. That don't make sense.
Okay, but listen to me. There has been moments where PBC has done positive things in regards to what their numbers were, and Rick released those numbers that were positive. So there's been moments where there were cards and fights that were successful, and Rick just gave the numbers of what they were.
Bro, Rick has never said anything nice about Wilder.
No, he hasn't. But he said something nice about the numbers, though. But he said something nice about the numbers.
And he's never reported positive numbers for Tank. Never.
But the thing is, unfortunately, there has not been any real positive numbers for Tank. The only fight that has the potential for positive numbers was Rolly, because Rolly's mouthpiece is wild crazy. Other than that, there has not been an opponent that moves the needle.
What about 4-weight champion or 4-time champion Leo Santa Cruz? That wasn't a good pay-per-view either?
I mean, listen, the fight was excellent, but if we want to be honest here,
the numbers. You telling me a dude that was selling 10,000, 7,000? How many did with Abner? He fought quick. I mean, like, why wouldn't Leo and Tank's numbers be real?
Because okay, let me tell you something. This is being all out honest, because I have a lot of respect for Leo Santa Cruz. But at that weight class, Leo Santa Cruz is a C+ fighter. His B+ fighter days was in lower weight classes. That's just being honest. We just got to be honest here.
I mean, again, what does C class have to do with numbers, brother?
Because
And before
it's not,
no, don't cut me
move
off.
the needle.
Don't cut me off. I'll let you talk.
My apologies. Go ahead.
Because Arturo Gatti was beneath a C. Arturo Gatti had more losses than Leo. Arturo Gatti got a fucking legendary night, so don't talk to me about C-class fighters, my friend. You making shit up. I go off facts.
I'm not making it up. I'm not making it up.
So Arturo Gatti and Mickey Ward, that's not an infamous fight a famous fight in boxing. It didn't have a trilogy. It don't got a legendary night. It didn't do numbers. It wasn't the guy that catapulted Floyd Mayweather. After that, Floyd ain't fight Gatti. Come on, dog. They saying next caller. They saying next caller,
exception to the rule.
They saying
that's the exception to the rule.
An exception
That's the exception to the rule. That's the exception to the rule.
I gotta go, man. I got to go. You see, when you
exception
kill
to
him,
the rule.
when you kill him, they move the goalpost back and say, "Oh no, he's an anomaly." That's an exception. That's once in a lifetime. But if you can't come up with that motherfucking answer, they think they won.
You got cooked.
All right, now that you've seen that, let's go ahead and chop it up at the bits real quick. So first and foremost, Gatti was his main point. Gatti vs. Ward was on free HBO. And the one fight that he had on pay-per-view versus Mayweather did $325K before piracy. Used him as to be a star. And I said he was the exception to the rule, but he wasn't even the exception to the rule. He was just popular because people liked the way he fought and he had wars. But all his Ward fights was for free. And the one fight with Mayweather did $325K. Because at that time, Mayweather still wasn't the star that he became. So that kills that first point you made. It's dead in the water. And I heard you arguing with another caller. Mayweather did his numbers against lesser competition because people paid to see him lose. That's another exception to the rule. Most times, you're not going to get high pay-per-views with uneven matches. And that was my point from the Jump Street. And when it comes to Rick, right, people would discredit it because he hates PBC. And you made a point, or Danny made the point about, well, he never says anything good about Wilder. He doesn't have to say anything good about Wilder. It's about what he says in the numbers. And he released good Showtime numbers with Wilder and Fury. He don't like Wilder. So we already have evidence that he actually puts out numbers that goes against how he feels about them personally. Only time you're going to get that from a Dan Rafael is if you're forced to. Otherwise, they're going to put out numbers that's going to be beneficial to whoever they represent. And I personally, he has a representing interest and gets his pockets lined. He don't work for ESPN no more. So where his bread got to get buttered somewhere. So this takes me to the biggest thing that I actually got after the fact, and I'm glad I didn't finish this video earlier. The numbers that are coming out now is saying 200 to 225 to 250 for the Hector Garcia fight. And it's coming from Boxing Scene. Boxing Scene is owned by the same company that owns Showtime, which is Paramount. And if you look at what I'm about to show you here, it says the word ultimately. And then you usually have a person's name on who writes it. It says Boxing Scene staff. So we don't even have a person accredited to who wrote this. Does that sound like a rooting interest? And because it's a publicly traded company, you can't make up numbers, but you can say ultimately and then have a number there because you didn't say it actually was that number. Looking real shaky, baby. And I'm sorry to say this, bro. It just looks shaky. Because you got a company that's owned by the company the numbers are supposed to be putting out for, with no accredited writer.
And then I'm seeing other people release the numbers, say I got it from my sources. Your source is the same person from the boxing scene. So what are the actual numbers? And y'all say, oh man, you're hating on Tank because you believe Rick Glaser 61K. I'm a Tank fan, but y'all have to be real. It was an uneven card. Where's the excitement outside of just seeing Tank himself? There was no match made where people felt it's a questionable fight. Stop using the numbers that you get for Livegate and associating it for pay-per-view. They're not one and the same. They can go hand in hand in making a superstar, but they're not mutually together. They can be mutually exclusive. So I wanted to shut down the nonsense since you say I'm making up stuff. But the sad part about it is, who's going to be the one releasing the numbers? The real numbers. Y'all ain't going to believe Rick because you feel like he has an agenda. But I've seen Rick do things that was not part of his agenda. Did y'all say he has? I'm going to leave it at that and let y'all sort out through the rest. It's the Unbiased Fan, Brim Reaper. And we going to talk about this real shit in boxing. Yeah, y'all have a blessed night. Peace.